Here are the battery cables that I'm going to use for the back of this. What this is, the first one. This is from a, I think it's from a Mark IV, the Jetta that I took apart. I mean, more than adequate enough, pretty thick, no problem. You know, has good ends. They're not corroded or anything like that, so it'll go right in and look pretty nice. The other one is this. This is from an E36 BMW. Fantastic cables. Look at how thick they are. They're, you know, they must be an O gauge or something like that. They're fantastic, actually. Now, let me show you how I'm going to wire this in. It's fairly simple. It doesn't take very much time, but there's a reason why I'm doing it this way. So let me show you. Now, we're going to be running the battery cables a little different than what most people run them at. Generally, if you have a positive terminal over on this side and a negative terminal on this side, they usually go with the shortest ground possible, and what does that do for you? Nothing. It restricts you on your battery. So we're trying to put in as many options as we can for something like this. See if we can make it optional. We can put the cables anywhere we want within the battery box, but then we can use any battery that will even just fit here, you know, just in case you get into troubles. So what am I going to do? I am going to have this side. This is the negative cable. I'm going to have this right there, so I can put it anywhere I want inside the battery cable or the battery box and get to the negative terminal. Same thing with the positive. I'm going to run the positive like this over here to the back, so I can get it here, You know, I can run it anywhere I want. If I get into a problem and need like a battery that I don't have, or you don't have the right one for, you have the option of doing something else. That's the biggest thing. That's what I'm trying to, you know, it's like a rally car. You know, you don't have battery cables that are, you know, 6 inches long. It's ridiculous. But anyway, let me run this up through here. It'll run through the bulkhead. Then I'll figure out where I need to grind out for the bulkhead, and we'll bring it up to the front. And I'll weld in I need to weld in a bolt right there too. Oh, before we go into the cabin to run the main battery cable, we got to put the ground cable on. And what this is a 8mm hole. What am I going to use? I'm just going to, there's a hole right here. I'm going to weld it to the chassis, weld this to the chassis. What is it? This is a bolt from a Mark III. What it is, as you can see, there's a head, and then there's an integrated washer, which they cast into it pretty much, you know, rolled into it. What the good thing is that I can clean up all around this, get the MIG, and go into the sides. Run a full bead around that. It's not going to mess with the flat surface area, so when this thing goes on here, it's completely flat, and we have a 100% contact for the best we can. I mean, we gotta at least try to get the most contact we can on the chassis, instead of having, you know, if it was like a nut and it was like, you know, the weld, it's like, ugh, you know. So that's the reason why I'm using that bolt. So let me get the grinder, and I will grind this, put the welder on it, and then we'll go into the cabin. Here's the cable going through. Where am I actually gonna It's gonna go right here. I gotta get the die grinder and start making a hole right here, and there's a reason why. Well, that's it. Let's get back to running the battery cable because there's something I found next to the e-brake that I want to show you. Now that we have the battery cable inside the cabin, I want to run it up the transmission tunnel. Why? Well, because I'm going to have a kill switch in this, and it's purely for safety. What it is whenever you get into an accident, you just kill the switch and it kills the fuel pumps, kills everything, kills the engine, all that stuff, and it'll save as much electronics as possible if you do have a fire. That's kind of a big thing. And when I was moving this all around, I noticed that I pushed it like that. It's like, hey, this cable goes basically right underneath this section right here. And if I sit there and trim this out, I can basically stick it up underneath here and tab it, and that way I don't have to put an extra mount. I mean, I'm going to use a ring mount out here, neck on the shifter, but that's easy. But if I can do this and kill two birds with one stone without having to add more metal to make more tabs, I think it's going to work out great, I think. But let me first cut this up. I want to shape it, push it in, weld it, and then I want to put a plate underneath here. And the reason why is this is, we're not going to use this, but we're going to use from this right here. This is the part of the drafting table that I've been chopping up left and right. And what it is it's pretty thick steel, but I'll put it underneath here, run it down, and weld it to the bottom there. So it's like an L bracket. What that L bracket does is, because when I put this thing back up on the rotisserie, remember I chopped this entire thing out because it was all rusty. I'm going to pound that back in and weld it to the bottom of this to clean up all the edges and clean everything up. But when I start pounding it in, I don't want that metal to crush this cable. That's why I'm using that L bracket. So let me go get my goggles and stuff on and the cutters, and let's first cut these things out, or trim this, push it in so we can get the cable inside there. I'll weld this also all the way to it, and then I will put the we'll make the L bracket, put the L bracket in there, weld it here, in here, and in here, and down the line here, so it's not going to go anywhere. Then I can pound all the metal up inside here, back in, clean it, weld it, and I think we're going to be okay. Let me go grab my gear and we will get going. That's squared away. That's it. So when I push the metal over here, back up, and weld it to the bottom of that, should be fine. I'll trim all the metal out when I get it on the rotisserie. Let's go to the ECU. Now we have to fit the ECU. What I was originally planning on doing was making a plate and bolting it to the side of the actual chassis right here, or right underneath here. Sort of like, like I think the Cosworths did that too, but they put them more in the dashboard for the rally cars, but that's beside the point. What I want to do, well, one thing we first have to do, this is the original 4000 Quattro glove box. This is the original 4000 Quattro ECU. This is where they put it. And I was wondering, wait a minute, why don't I just put it there? And if you put it right here, well, the vacuum lines up, it'll interfere. It's kind of hard to put everything. So I figured, while I was at it, I just put it right in like this. This is where it's going to fit, right here. And I'm looking at it going, wait a minute. Oh yeah, I don't have an air conditioning condenser. So I look at it going, all right. If I put it right here in the back, it's away from the mount on the back. You can bolt it right to it. You can take and have the clip right here that just goes right in the vacuum line right there, so it's easily accessible, and when you want to pull it out, just pull the glove box out. That was way too easy. And I'm going to use the same bolts that this thing bolts in, and just going to drill holes, and that's it. Yeah, damn. So let's move on to the very last thing. The very last thing will be, I'm going to put the alternator on this thing. So that'll be the end of the electrics. I also, off camera, I ran the electrics for the rear lights. Easy. I just made 2 holes, basically, as you saw on the rear bulkhead. Pretty much the same. It's just going to fish through. I mean, it's going to be a mishmash of Mark III and Coupe GT wiring it back there, but that's beside the point. It's not hard. It goes back. I have to have one bolt there so I can screw in, you know, for the ground. That's pretty much it. I mean, now it's all really easy. The worst thing is probably the alternator, and you know what? I might as well do it so we can just push this thing off to the side and just wait for the really warm weather, you know? And I'm still debating on whether or not I'm going to wait for the really warm weather, because I might just say, I gotta get it done. But I don't know. So, but hey, let's go to the front, and now that this is solved, we know where it's going to be, you know, and everything else is pretty much welded up and in position. And we have to get the interior carpet and all that stuff in first before we do anything else. So, all right, let's go to the front and let's do the alternator, and that should be fairly simple. I'll pull the front end off. It's going to take 15 minutes, and intercooler off, and then we'll set everything back up, and I'll show you what I'm going to use for an alternator. We're back at the front of the car. I have to put the alternator in. This was the one that I set up right here. I only pulled the rudimentary stuff off just so I can get it. I don't feel like pulling everything off. All right, this is the block I made. These are the tabs I welded onto it right here to set the 4000 Quattro alternator on. And I did that, and the very back hits, and I can't bring it up. And the thing is, I can't bring it up to clear the water pump. So, all right, what did I do? Well, to try and make this one, because I wanted to make this one fix it looks right, you know. What I did was I trimmed off the back of the bolt right here on the back of the alternator. It doesn't affect anything except for the cover that you put on the back to suck in air. But seeing how you couldn't use it anyway, all right, doesn't matter. Then I said, okay, well, if I got that a little bit, but then it wouldn't really fit. This right here is the pulley off of Quattro, right there, because I couldn't bring it out enough. Because that's what I was trying to do, is bring the body out further. And that's, if all you people are looking at it, you know, this is what you're going to be doing, is getting the front pulley as far out, because this is the pulley right here for this. And this one's close to the fans. This one's I don't know, 6 millimeters maybe, 7 millimeters off of the fan. So I was trying to reduce it by bringing the body this way. That wouldn't work. So much for that. And your Quattro alternator is a 90 amp alternator, not a 75. So the body was even bigger than this. So all right. If I'm going to go with a German alternator, how about this? I went up and I dug a Volkswagen one out. I think it's probably a Mark 1. Very small body. I think these things were 60 amp maybe, something like that. I don't know. I just found it. And I says, okay, well, the body looks right, but then they have an extended shaft like this. Well, that extended shaft is a solid shaft all the way through. So I was hoping it would be just a series of, like, you know, couplers that I could, you know, bring this down to there, and wouldn't work. So on to what I'm going to use. This is what I used on my Quattro. This right here is from a Mazda 323 GTX. I believe it's 65 amps. What I'm going to use? Well, I basically set her up that, where is it, right here. I use this. This right here is the original power steering mount from the 3V. And I use this block to bring it up. You know, as a spacer is pretty much what it is. Now, if I take this off, put this on, tons of adjustment. Then, when it goes up, it clears the entire manifold and it clears the water pump when you tighten it up. The only other thing is we got to make a, I have to go grab a mount to make it onto the back. That way, that's what's going to happen. Let me, but I'm also going to do a couple other small things here. Let me show you. Let me pull this off. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to chop this right there. I'm going to use the rest of this to basically down. It's going to go right here, inside here, and I'm going to weld it to this plate. It's all the same size. That's the reason why. So I want a nice even dispersion of how the bolts go. And then I'm also going to have a hook right on here on top of that. So let's go leap into action and do this, and that way it'll all be done, you know. And one more thing on the plate, I'll put it all back together again because I got to keep it put back together just because of sanity. Clears it beautiful. And we need an adjuster to come up here. You won't believe this. The alternator hits the hood. Well, let's see how bad it is. Let's put this back up. Alright, that's down about 3 millimeters. and it closes. So I have to clearance the hood by 3 mil. Really? Well, hey, listen, you know what? I'm not mucking about with that anymore. And seeing how I'm going to have to cut fiberglass, I'm going to do one last thing. Bear with me, you're going to like this. To the bumper. We're going to install the turn signals. I'm going to show you a freaking hack that I think you'll really like. Yeah, I hope it'll work. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work. Let's give it a shot. This is what I got. Now, right here, these right here are new Type 85, which was the Quattro. And these are like, you know, Chinese replicas, but actually they're not that bad. If you take a look at this, on how they operate, you can sit there and they all curve inward. See the bottom? It curves inward. Take a look at this picture. I'm going to put it right here for the Sport Quattro. You'll see they're using a Type 85 light, but it curves in. And I'm sitting there going, well, you know, this is such a hillbilly build that we got to find an alternative for you guys to do it on your cars. What am I going to use? Well, take a look at this. These are Porsche 944, normally aspirated cars, but Porsche 944 turn signals. They made 1 billion of them. Check this out. Here's the curvature of the bumper. Here's the curvature of the turn signal. I can't know exactly how it's going to be, but I got to cut it in order to inset these in. If these things inset in, they are the right height to go right in here. And if it is, you know, that's kind of a game changer for everybody building a sport, you know? Because you can pick these things up for 20 bucks. I mean, those Chinese reproductions now are like $325, $350. And that's not including shipping. So from Latvia or England or wherever it's from. Let me go get my respirator on and the tools, and let's start cutting this up. I'm also going to trim the hood to make sure the alternator fits. And let's see if this works. I think if this works, I'm going to be flabbergasted. You know? All right, let me get that. Let me get my stuff on. I think this is about it. What do you think? I think these things look awesome. How am I going to attach them? I don't know quite yet. What I'm thinking of is doing a screw from behind. That's pretty much what I was thinking about doing. They're pretty much there. I got to clean them up and all that stuff, but they look like they're supposed to be there. That's nuts, you know. That's pretty much it. I mean, I think this is going to be the last video for an awful long time for this car until it warms up. After doing all this stuff, you know, welding in the bulkhead, doing the underneath for the clutch and for the electrics and for the battery cable and all the other small stuff that I did, you now have a full blueprint on what I'm doing for this car. The rest of it is cleanup, you know. I still have to do some little bit of welding, but not much. But it's, wow. This has been a long road, I'll tell you right now, but it's still got a lot of way to go. I still have to make the grills for here. I have an idea what I'm going to do. I gotta, you know, that's one thing you have to wait, but this is one thing that's I wanted to get done. And the clutch master cylinder is kind of big. Now I know exactly what I'm doing. I got the holes for the drain for the air filter, the ECU, and the fuse box. Those holes are coming in, and I'll close up the other holes. I have the battery cables in where they're going to be routed. You know, there's a lot of stuff here. I didn't finish. There's a lot of small welding that I need to do, like finishing up the bumper and stuff like that. But that's minor. The fabrication work has been done, and I just have to, you know, go back and finish weld it and see how it works. But I'm pretty happy. Here you guys. There you go. That's a full blueprint to building this car. At least that I got. You know, whether or not it's going to work, who knows, you know. But remember, you could do this. This is all just built out of recycled garbage, except for the body kit and a couple other things. But, you know, it's, you know, the hillbilliness of New Hampshire. Remember, you could do it. You can absolutely do this. I'm nothing special. All right. Well, thank you very much for showing up. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great day. And the next things will be the Audi rally car. I got to do that. Other than that, thanks a lot. Have a great day.